In the early 1990s, Sonic the Hedgehog was Sega's mascot, and he helped spearhead the charge as Sega attempted to dethrone Nintendo as the kings of the console market. Now, despite only ever really being successful in Europe, Sega's Master System had its own Sonic titles, as well as the Mega Drive games, and in this video I'm taking a look at Sonic's 1 and 2 and how they compare across both formats. Now, these videos have been released individually before, but today they're combined here for your viewing pleasure, so you can really see what the differences are and the similarities between Sonic and Sonic 2 on the Sega Master System and the Sega Mega Drive. So, here we go. Enjoy! Greetings folks, and welcome to another Battle of the Bits. Today we're going to be looking at one of the most iconic video games of all time, Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, a little bit of history here. Back in the early 1990s, if you had a console on the market, having some kind of mascot was seen as being an essential. Obviously, Nintendo were already well established with the Mario franchise at this point, and Sega had given it a try. We'd had the Alex Kidd games on the Master System and early Mega Drive era, but whilst they had their fans, they never really caught the attention in the same way that Mario had. So, Sega went back to the drawing board and decided to come up with a character that was the entire antithesis of what Mario was. This meant Sega were after a fast, loud, brash, attitude-laden character, very on brand for the 1990s, it must be said, and the character they came up with was Sonic the Hedgehog, the blue blur, the little speed demon on the 16-bit system, the Mega Drive. Now, despite the fact that this game was conceived as a Mega Drive title to push the new system and therefore Sega forward and ahead of Nintendo in the console space, the Master System, of course, was still massively popular in Europe, hence a Master System version was produced. So, today we're going to look at both games and we're going to see which version of Sonic the Hedgehog I personally feel is the better version. So, without further ado, let's get on with it. So, here we are with the Mega Drive version to start with. So, there's the iconic Sega logo on Sonic Team and the title screen that's oh so familiar to millions of gamers worldwide. Now, here we go. Obviously, you start off in the iconic green hill zone. This is, to many people, what they think of when they think of Sonic. Now, the reason this has become so iconic is because the green hill zone was used as the attract mode. You saw this in the shops, you saw it in a window. This is what you saw. To many people, this aesthetic is Sonic the Hedgehog. And you know what? As an introduction to the game and the character, it's brilliant. It's bright, it's colourful, it's energetic, it's fast, it's furious, it's fun. It's exactly what you need when you're trying to introduce a new character to somebody. It sets the tone of the character, not just the game, but the character perfectly. Now, obviously, as you can see there, I completed the stage, enough rings, and there I am on the special stage. Again, this is something else that many people do link with the original Sonic the Hedgehog, the iconic rotating special stage, which, as you can see, I'm ever so slightly rubbish at there. But that's how you get the Chaos Emeralds. They became an important and vital part of the game as you played through it. Now, that's not to say they're the most important part of the game, but they are really important. And as I said, this is the original Sonic. It looks and plays superbly and hits all the right notes and the exact intention that Sega had for the game and the character. This was completely different to Mario. And now over to the Master System version. As you can see, it's a much simpler title screen to kick things off, but it still retains that Sonic character and flair. First big difference here, you get a map screen showing you where Sonic lives. And here we go. This is the 8-bit version of Green Hill Zone. And you know what? First off, for a Master System game, it looks and moves brilliantly. But secondly, and perhaps most importantly, it's a very, very good representation of the Mega Drive version of the stage. It retains the speed, the feel, the character of the game. Now, one thing to note here on the Master System, you don't have to do the special stages to get the Chaos Emeralds. They're hidden within the stages. And the next thing you'll notice is when we get on to Act 2 here, the gameplay changes, because Sonic's all about speed, right? That's what Green Hill Zone Act 1 is all about, yeah? Well, welcome to Green Hill Zone Act 2 on the Master System, where it becomes a slightly slower, more measured platform game. Yep, that's right. This is arguably more in tone with the Mario games of the time. Not that I'm saying it's an exact Mario game, but it has that feel. It's less frantic than the Mega Drive game, but it still plays brilliantly. This was an example of a developer, in this case Sega themselves, playing to the strengths of the system when converting the game. This is not Mega Drive Sonic the Hedgehog. For the most part, this is a completely different game, and for my mind, it's all the better for it. It's a different feel, a different tone to the game, and I, for one, really enjoy it. Now, it's not going to be for everyone, that's obvious, because it's Sonic, but it's not Sonic. But I think, given the constraints of the system, this is easily the best that could have been hoped for. You could not have done Sonic the Hedgehog on the Master System just like the Mega Drive game. It wouldn't happen. Now, it's quite obvious from those clips there, you can see that visually the games are close enough in terms of how they're stylized to identifiably be the same character in the same universe, yet obviously different given that one is on a much more powerful system than the other. The other big difference between the two really is the music, and to be fair, I think the Master System gives a darn good account of itself. Let's just play a couple of samples here so you can see for yourself and make your own mind up. So, as you could tell then, the Mega Drive clearly has the edge in terms of the Sonics, if you'll pardon the pun. However, the Master System version does, like it does visually, acquit itself incredibly well. Now, my personal preference for the two is actually the Master System version. I prefer the slightly slower pace, the slightly more measured approach to gameplay, and yeah, it was the first version that I properly played, having owned a Master System when Sonic 1 came out. And with the iconic Sonic splash screen for the Mega Drive, here we are into Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Now, immediately from the title screen, you can see that this game comes on a bigger cartridge, and this has allowed the developers, Sonic Team, to do so much more with the game. The presentation and the graphics are a significant step up from the original Sonic the Hedgehog on the Mega Drive. You know, this is a generational leap in terms of development. Now, this game does look beautiful. You've got layer upon layer of parallax there. You've got beautiful sprite and background work, and the game flies along. Obviously, in NTSC mode, you get full 60 frames a second. If you're playing this on a European Mega Drive, you'll be playing this at 50 frames a second. But to be fair, you won't really notice any difference. It was pretty well optimised as these things go. Now, as you can see, the game looks stunning. A big change that was made, despite the increase in the size of the cartridge and the upped presentation, was the decision to drop each zone down to just 2 acts. Now, this doesn't have a huge bearing on the gameplay. It just means you don't have a dedicated boss stage now. It just comes at the end of stage 2 on each zone. Sorry, act 2, not stage, act. Now, as you can see here, this refined various mechanics from the original Sonic the Hedgehog. You've got the loops. They added in this new move, the spin dash, which allows you to rocket away at speed. On certain sections, in certain levels, there are destructible elements that you are required to use the spin dash to get through. Previously, you had to take a massive run up and roll into a ball to do that. And they also added things like the Mobius strips there, which add extra elements to some of the levels and give them that little bit more fun. Now, here's your first boss fight. As you can see, it's not massively complicated, and having your little friend there, Tails, doesn't really help much. In fact, throughout a lot of the game, having Tails follow you around is more of a hindrance than a help. He can get caught on scenery, he can lose you rings when you don't want them to be lost, but he's there. He was one of the new elements added to the game, and you know, it just helps make it stand out. You know, Mario on the NES and SNES had Luigi, but he was never with him. It was one or the other. Here on the Mega Drive, you got both, and if you had a second pad plugged in, a second player could actually utilise their controller to control Tails, which added a little bit of fun. And you know, especially if you had a younger sibling who may not have been brilliant at games, it certainly could involve them in playing the game with you. Now, having said all that and showing how much this improved over the original in terms of its looks and its smoothness, let's take a look at the Master System version. Now again, here on the Master System version, you can see that there is immediately a massive improvement in presentation. We have an animated intro, something that even the Mega Drive version doesn't have. However, this does set apart the biggest difference between the two games in that you're actually trying to rescue Tails in this game. He's not with you. Realistically, the Master System is never going to be able to handle having the two players there simultaneously. But, as you can see, the presentation's incredible. Yes, you've lost the map, but you get these nice little splash screens with a little animation. And I have to say, I think Sonic 2 on the Master System looks significantly better than Sonic 1 did, much as it does on the Mega Drive. You know, this is comfortably one of the better looking Master System games. Now, much like the previous Master System version, this game doesn't use the same kind of layouts that the Mega Drive does. It is a slower paced game simply because the system couldn't handle it as well. You know, it was never going to be able to keep up with that kind of pace. Now, one thing I will say on this is, like in the original, you can have rings bounce around if you lose them when you get hit by an enemy. This was something that wasn't in the original and is here in the Master System version. Now, one thing to note when you do get hit by the enemy and you do see the splash of rings is they're a different sprite to the sprite that you collect. They're clearly a different colour and they're utilised differently, but it is there. That was an improvement. It was something that was missing from the original one, and it just helps increase the sonicness of the game, if you like. Now, there you go, got a little animation behind the Underground Zone logo there, but you know, here we are again, and you know, this is definitely top tier Master System graphics. I don't think anyone can doubt that. It's also top tier Master System sound. You know, the Mega Drive version does sound brilliant. The Master System version as well sounds pretty darn good. In fact, I like both of them. Now, how does this compare to the Mega Drive version? I'd say fairly favourably. I mean, again, it's another example of Sega's coders working within the limitations of the machine to produce the best game that they could, and it works really well. I will say this game does have a little bit of notoriety, more so for the Game Gear version than this version, in terms of its difficulty level. It's a notoriously tough game, especially when you get to Act 3 of each stage, because yes, this one retains the 3-act structure, and you take on the bosses. Why? Well, quite simply put, it doesn't give you any rings. You're taking on boss fights, and you get hit, you die. It's that simple. And you're about to see that here as I move on to Act 3 of Underground Zone to take on the boss. It makes it very difficult. You've got no rings. That means it is a one-hit kill. A big difference to the Mega Drive version, but you know, that's how these games were. You know, they wanted to increase the challenge, and they found the best way to increase the challenge was to make it as difficult as possible, not to come up with clever level layouts, but just massively whack up the difficulty. But anyway, enough talking. Let's see and have a bit of a wrap up, shall we, and some thoughts as to which version wins this Battle of the Bits. Now, I'm going to cheat here with which one I think is better, because realistically, I can't choose. I think they're both equally good. Sonic 2 on the Mega Drive is probably the most iconic game for the system for most gamers, and Sonic 2 on the Master System really shows what the system was capable of in the hands of the right coders. So yeah, this Battle of the Bits, it's a draw. They're both excellent games, and they're both well worth playing. So there you go, folks. Sonic and Sonic 2 for the Master System and the Mega Drive. If you have any thoughts about these games, if you agree with me or disagree with me, feel free to leave a comment down below. You know the usual stuff. You can support the channel by leaving me a donation on Ko-fi. You can become a channel member on Patreon or on YouTube. You'll see the names of my channel members pop up on screen here now. Much love to you guys. And, you know, if you've enjoyed this video, hit the like button. Hit the share button, hit the subscribe button, hit the hype button. Do everything you can to help get this video in front of other people who you think may enjoy it as much as you. I've been Rob, this has been 81632-bit, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.